I wasn't speeding, was I?
No, you wasn't speeding.
Well, I was driving on the right side of the road.
Yes, you was on the right side of the road. That's right.
What'd you stop me for then?
I just don't like your face.
All right, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson.
Okay.
This is yours. This is your show, man.
Yeah.
This was this is kind of this was brought to my attention by my friend here, who had read the book and seen the film.
Yeah.
I myself have only seen the film, but I have some hot takes, and so we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, if you want to kind of just set it up and so we can knock this one down.
Yeah.
You set them up, and I'll knock them down.
Today we are talking about the movie Wise Blood, which is based on the book. It's a pretty dang like faithful adaptation of the book. Like I looked up I just looked directly at like the dialogue, and it's pretty much like completely directly ripped out of there. Like the book isn't very long, so it is about it's about like the length that you'd expect, like filming, just putting the book straight onto the screen,
which is great. I like that. I can't vouch for that. That's just something that I can't vouch for that. But it's they kept every last N word dropped,
and then some maybe.
Yeah.
No.
So don't let that discourage you. That should probably be a bit of a disclaimer if you're thinking about watching this movie and you're not up for that kind of thing. Then maybe this one's not for you. But you know what? Push through it.
Push through it.
Push through it. I mean, it's a fun movie. I have to say,
if you don't like Protestants, it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh man, see, it's so funny. I would have been like a couple months ago the one to drag that stuff up first.
I mean, it's kind of like it's baked in there.
It is really.
All right, why don't we talk about what the movie's about?
Sure. Well, yeah. Talk about what it's about, and then I kind of want to know what you're kind of. We haven't really discussed so much about this. We were saving it for the pod. So I'm really actually curious to hear just what you think of the whole thing anyway. And okay, but go ahead and set up the plot and we'll dive into this. This is a fresh take too. So this is good.
So Wise Blood is considered a Southern Gothic book, so it's in line with like what's his face? I'm looking at the book right now. Blood Meridian.
Oh yeah,
McCarthy. Cormac McCarthy. Like it's like that type of genre, I guess. I mean, you can see like some through lines.
Oh sure. I never really put that together so much.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's obviously it's pretty different, but like
it's different only in the sense that it's like if you just take the hokey dial in the form of music and just crank that up, then it's much less like anything you'd ever suspect Cormac McCarthy would be, or McCarthy.
Yeah. Cormac McCarthy. Yeah.
Cormac McCarthy. It's much less anything that McCarthy would write.
It's much less dark.
But I mean, it's plenty dark.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, definitely. It occurs in just like
was it Tennessee?
I'm not sure if it's Tennessee.
It's somewhere in the South.
Somewhere it
was written by a Flannery O'Connor, who I guess grew up in the South, like in a Protestant family, I'm pretty sure, and then she became a Catholic later on in life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can.
Yeah, you can probably see that.
I can definitely see that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, but a little bit more about this story. So basically, if it follows this character who, I don't know, is his name is Mr. Motes.
Hazel Motes.
Hazel Motes. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because I hear him referred to different. I never really picked up on that so much as like people. Different characters tend to call him different things. Mostly people just like it's. I think one of the reasons is it's like you just hear him being like accused of being a preacher all the time.
Yeah.
So Hazel Motes. Go on, Andrew. Sorry.
Yeah. So Hazel Motes is the grandson of a preacher, or maybe I think he comes from like a very religious like preacher's family.
Yeah, like I don't know the word for it, but the sort of I guess the fire and brimstone tradition, you could say.
Yeah. Like
there's
that's definitely fire and brimstone talk. So yeah, he becomes like an atheist in his like early 20s or so, and then like where we find him, he goes back to his hometown and learns that like his family just isn't there. His family's pretty much gone. Like his house is abandoned. So then he decides to go to the big city of Talkenham. To do something he's never done before.
Yeah, and he confronts on the way there. So just a little weird, interaction that he has on the way there. He confronts this kind of
Kindly old lady.
Yeah, this kindly old lady, I suppose, who is just like trying to make some small talk, and then he just like you can tell he's possessed by an idea.
Yeah,
like straight off the bat. And this is the point where you just like you see it kind of. I don't know if this was the transition, or this is where just like his becoming an atheist kind of just came back home and met his upbringing and the way that the people that he grew up around think. And so this lady is just making small talk, and then he just like pops a question on her.
Well, time does fly, don't it? I haven't seen my sister's children in about 5 years now. I don't know if I know them if I saw them. There's Roy and Jimmy J and John Wesley. Oh, they call me Mama Dog, and they call my husband Papa Dog.
I reckon you think you've been redeemed.
So this lady is just making small talk, and he just like pops a question on her, like, I reckon you've been redeemed, and just like throws her off guard, and just like, trying to do the whole, I don't know, he's like the Southern Ivan.
Well, she's
just like
she's talking about like her grandchildren and like how much they adore her and her husband.
She's talking about how comfortable she is,
and I think that's what prompts the question. It kind of comes kind of I don't know. We can play the clip here, I think.
Yeah, let's play the clip.
Play the clip, Andrew, in the future. Thank you.
God, that was great. But no, it's like she's talking about her comfort level and the sort of like, something about that. That's just, oh man.
Sorry, I'm looking.
Oh, no worries. You're going to play the clip anyway, so we're going to have to cut this out.
Yeah, we'll cut this out. So, yeah, she basically like gives him like a platitude of, I wrote it down. Like life is an inspiration. She says in response to like
you reckon you're redeemed. Yeah, you reckon you're redeemed. Life's inspiration is, don't you think? Just this like, she doesn't buy it.
So like a lot of there are actually like a lot of platitudes. Like I could pull up the intro again, but like if you remember, we didn't watch this part like just now, so it might be a little hazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the beginning is just all pictures of like signs of like Jesus saves, God is good.
Yeah. I do remember that.
The quicker
like,
picker upper.
Yeah, we could mention that now.
Yeah,
Jesus.
It's like
the quicker picker upper.
Yeah,
we just so for some. We ran in front. We found a Wise Blood sign here in our little town in Wisconsin. Right. Yeah, we're just driving by, and some church. I don't know.
Protestant church.
I'm just gonna say some church. You could
actually. We don't really know.
We don't know.
Yeah,
it could have been Episcopal or something. I don't know. But yeah, we drive past some church, and it just has on the, you can't make this up. It just has on the sign, Jesus the quicker picker upper, and maybe we ought to have that as that's gonna be part of the that's gonna be part of the title, the picture thing,
Jesus the quick.
Yeah, we're gonna throw that. Yeah,
that picture.
I have that picture, of course. But it's just funny that it's just like it's basically it's just everything is boiled down. There's no more water left in the pan. It's just like the sizzling salt that was inside the water. Yeah, it's this. It's words are a reduction, and this is a reduction of words, is what I see. Is this sort of slogan thing? Yeah,
it's like, you do kind of like, I grew up in the Lutheran church, and you can, I understand like the kind of feeling of,
we could safely say this is a Western thing in general. I
I
would
don't
say.
know how much I'm gonna say on here.
It's
don't know.
fine. We could
But
safely
yeah,
say this
it's
is
like
kind of
you understand like the disillusionment with like all these like slogans and
yeah.
stuff like that, and like in modern Protestant churches kind of turned into like aping pop culture trends and
Yeah, and
stuff like that. It's just a lot of this is like Hazel is kind of seen through like the Protestant practice. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy to dissect after a while. Like
Yes. Yeah.
in like your teens, you kind of become like disillusioned.
It's one of
That
those
way.
things that these sort of like when you take just a slice of a kind of an experience, I don't know. It's to go back to kind of what we were talking about in the Dirty Harry episode of just like the revolution as the only culture you venerate. When revolution is the only, revolution is the only tradition that you venerate, then you just keep endlessly kind of revolting. But there's also a part where it's like if you take just a slice, just a picture of like a piece of something, like there's something that's definitely missing, and it's so clear when it gets down to the level of just the piece that's being chosen is like basically the marketing of it and the platitudes in the form of signs and bumper stickers and things, because it's like it's really funny that it's just like from the modern perspective and just like driving around, and if you're just kind of like an agnostic cruising around and you're just taking in the scenery and around like some areas, and you see some churches and everything every now and again, but mostly when you confront religion, if you're not within a religious tradition, you'd see it on like bumper stickers, and it's like right next to like coexist signs and like all this kind of like Biden, Harris, Trump, Pence, and a little fish on the bumper sticker with a and a little cross someplace. It's like that's like how you experience religion.
It really doesn't occupy the center, I guess.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. It doesn't occupy the center, and it's like it's also like from that perspective, you could clearly see why somebody would look at something and be like, well, at least I know what Biden, Harris, or Trump, Pence is about, but like what is behind this empty platitude of just like Jesus saves? It's like if that's all you got, then it's like, it's
there's definitely like a disillusionment there. Like you're like, really, Jesus, the quicker picker upper, you're gonna use this like little slogan to
it's like, oh man, dude, it's like it really doesn't matter, like to an extent. How you do something matters. Like not what you're doing matters a lot, of course. Like what's at the center of it, the telos and all that. But like how you do things, the form in which they manifest really does matter. Like in like substantially. Like I can remember once at my old church where I used to go to, that I went and we had at the end of the service, when we're watching like we're like everything's being wrapped up and there's a little spiel and stuff, priest is talking to the parishioners, and then he says, all right, and now we have a word from he might as well have said like we have a word from our sponsor, but he said like we have a word from et cetera to show you where your money is going, essentially. And then a slide projector rolls down, and then the lights are shut off, and then an infomercial starts playing, and any sort of religious like there's no, at that point there's no more form. Like it all completely is just, there's no more form of a liturgical celebration. There's no more form of a liturgical celebration. You're just it was like I was just watching cable, and all of a sudden an infomercial came on. Like that's exactly the feeling I had, and it just like, oh man, I gotta sit here and watch an infomercial. And it's like, it doesn't matter really what they could have been reading the most inspiring they could have been reading the most inspiring like Christian words and Christian philosophy they've ever written, but it would have been like sullied by the form of what that was. And it's just like, there's a time and a place for things, and like really Wise Blood I think shows you just like the dangers of what happens with like when you kind of make sacred spaces really loose and not well defined. It's kind of like, it's a great movie about why you need body, and like just why body is important, because
I think we're putting the cart before the horse here, though.
Okay, all
So-
right. Sorry.
So Hazel, yeah, he's disillusioned. We got the train scene. He goes to the town or the city of Talkingham, and we can just skip to the part where he's like on the steps where he starts preaching. Like he comes
Yeah.
up with the idea after meeting another preacher who's a BS artist.
Yeah, we learn later he's a BS artist, but it's kind of
it's pretty apparent from like the
pretty
beginning
apparent,
that like this preacher of like he's I guess a rival preacher to Hazel's throughout the movie, but he claims to have like blinded himself just as an act of faith, I guess,
as justification is what they said.
justification.
Which I'm not
I
aware
don't
of
know.
like what that is, but I'm
it's very
assuming-
vague. Like
I'm assuming it's some like masochistic rite of like of something.
it's something to like prove his faith is because he poured acid out his eyes.
Yeah. Again, okay, there's something else too. There's a focus on suffering.
Focus on suffering, focus on like the brokenness of the world certainly throughout the thing. Like,
yeah.
we can get to that later though.
Right.
So he
It's so much. Like I don't know.
Breaking
Yeah.
this is gonna turn into the No Country for Old Men episode.
Oh man. You shouldn't mention that because then we have to maybe
Now
someday.
we gotta release it. No.
Now we gotta release it. Oh shoot.
Cut here.
No, continue.
We'll
All
see.
right, all right.
Okay, so where was I? So yeah, Hazel Moat's like right after meeting this guy, he gets it in his head to start a new church, calling it the Church Without Christ.
Yeah.
So basically, his tenets are just that Jesus was a liar, it's a trick on folks, and watch the movie, you'll get it.
Yeah, you'll get it.
Okay,
It's hard to miss it.
yeah.
Don't I know what exists and what don't? Ain't I got eyes in my head? Am I a blind man? Let me tell you something. Maybe you think that you ain't clean because you don't believe. Every one of you are clean. And I'll tell you why. If you think it's because of Jesus Christ crucified, you're wrong. I ain't saying he wasn't crucified, but I say it wasn't for you. I'm gonna start a new church, the Church of Truth, without Jesus Christ crucified, and it won't cost you nothing to join my church. It ain't started yet, but it's gonna be. I don't need Jesus. What do I need Jesus for? I got Leora Watt.
And also, like, the other big thing is there's no reason for redemption. There's no need for redemption.
Yeah. The idea
Like,
that
you're fine the way you are.
There's nothing to fall from because there was no fall.
Yeah, because there was no fall. There's no... I don't know how thought through it is. Like, is there a higher ideal to his church at
Well,
this
he
point?
said at one point. At that point, I think it's just and it really is. It's like he's wrapping around again. He's like he sees something he doesn't like, and he is saying that's not me. He is basing his church off of a negation, in a rather protesting sort of fashion.
Yeah, in some ways, I think it's just like not thought out, like really at that point though.
Yeah, but he doesn't
Because
like
he doesn't.
about,
It seems kind of contradictory at points. Like he's still. He doesn't. He's very cynical, like of everything, but he says that there's no reason for redemption.
yeah.
It's just, there's like, he talks to the girl, the bastard daughter of the preacher, the blind preacher guy, and then he says like, there's no bastards in the church, so it's like, you know, all accepting, everything's perfect, the way it is, sort of. But like, it's hard because like I think he's just torn between two minds throughout the movie.
Well, which is perfect.
Which is
because
like it's a difference between like his actions and his ideology, I guess.
This is perfect in a sort of way, and so at some point we were gonna have to invoke the name of Peugeot. This is perfect in the way that so there's a guy who runs the Symbolic World. If you haven't seen it, Symbolic World is great. Jonathan Peugeot. But Peugeot is talking about how in Revelations, how how the whore and the beast are married, but they really ought not to be, because it's this idea of tyranny and radical hospitality existing in the same thing. And it's also like, but you see this kind of split all the time in that it's like Smeagol and Gollum. It's like the divided personality. It's part of being the multiplicity. Is it working on that level too? You know, it's not that it's like that the whore and the beast shouldn't be married. It's that's how they exist. I think if I'm understanding this correctly, which it's Revelation, so it's complicated, but it's like this idea of the sort of hospitable and tyrannical coexisting. It's like it just seems like another manifestation of a multitude in a kind of.
I guess I read it kind of differently. We'll get to that though.
Okay, that's fine. That's
we'll
fine.
Get to all
hey,
of this.
I'm just kind of spitballing here, but this is what it reminds me of, because it's like, and there is there's a through line to Lord of the Rings. This is you know, what's his name?
Grable Wormtongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays Hazel Motes, the main character.
Yeah, he's great in it too. Like he really, it's a good role for this kind of guy. It suits him.
Yeah, somebody preaching BS is, I guess it's.
Yeah, he always plays that guy.
continuation.
He's the Mississippi Burning guy. He's the
Yep.
Wormtongue. Anyway,
Yeah.
no, I was just saying that's kind of this is the way I look at this, sort of one way to look at split personality kind of things, like Smeagol and Gollum. This kind of like it is. There's like the one who's the tyrannical one, and there's the one who's like the kind of all over the place and just grabs onto whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
Speaking of grabbing onto whatever, maybe we should
not digress
continue
so
with
much.
the plot. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
It's good. But where are we? So yeah, he preaches the church without Christ.
Yeah.
Probably talk more about that later. So then he meets a character called Enoch Emery. He's a, how would you describe him?
A fool.
Yeah, he'd be like a holy fool character, I guess. In ways.
But
he's also
like
just kind of a fool. Like in
I don't know. In this one, it's not like bringing any kind of. Well, if he is a holy fool, then that's
there's a part later on the culmination of his character is kind of in like bringing Hazel. Hazel talks about a new Jesus.
Yeah, Hazel brings up the abstraction of something that he doesn't have a full, like you said, he doesn't have a full image of what it's going to turn into.
Yeah.
And he brings it up. And
so he tears down the idea of Jesus.
He opens a vacuum.
Yeah, he opens a vacuum. He says we need a new Jesus, one of flesh and blood, one who's not founded on a lie of the resurrection,
but he said something interesting. He said all body with no blood to sacrifice or something like that. And it's just funny that Enoch ends up bringing him just flesh and no blood at all. He brings him the literal.
He says new Jesus, no blood, nothing, and that's pretty much exactly what Enoch brings him. This. So for some reason, Enoch thinks he has kind of what do you call it? I don't want to call it powers, but he believes he's he can prophesy sort of.
He feels something. He feels something, and he calls it.
He acts on intuition, and he thinks that this intuition is coming from a higher place.
Yeah.
Not explicitly religious, I guess.
No, it's like something from the Passions. He describes this sort of thing of just he gets these directions, these things that pull him in different ways.
Yeah.
That he's not quite aware of, but he's got it, and it's the wise blood.
I knew when I first seen you that you didn't have nobody or nothing but Jesus. I seen you, I knew it. That's right. Standing around acting like you got wires of blood and anybody else, but you ain't, because I'm the one that has it, not you, me.
What are you talking about?
About I know things I ain't never learned. How I can see signs. It's something that just happens, and I got to do some things sometimes. I got to do some things sometimes I don't even want to do. And sometimes inside me I can feel it. I can feel it pulling and tugging at me and pushing, and I can feel my blood beating, and I got to do this thing right now. It's wise blood. Ain't everybody has it. See, it's a gift. It's a gift, like a gift for the prophets. Now, I ain't saying I'm a prophet. No, it ain't like that, but it's like that.
Yeah, that's where the title comes from. He says he has wise blood, and that's what gives him this gift.
Yeah.
Where are we?
So he goes off. So while Hazel is preaching and saying like, you need a new Jesus, we need et cetera, et cetera. Enoch goes off, and Enoch gets the idea to go off and goes to this kind of this weird little museum where they have a shrunken corpse, looks like it's used as a voodoo doll or something like that, and he lifts it and he brings it. He ends up trying to get it to Hazel, anyway.
Yeah,
and no, it's just great. It's just the whole thing, especially where it's like when Hazel is saying that he wanted like there's like a Christ without blood to sacrifice or something, and it's just like, well, there it is. It's a little it's like
and it's the way it's presented is also pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Oh man. So we have to set up that character and probably just that sort of
what Lily?
Lily, yeah, or Lilith.
Sabbath, Lily.
Sabbath, yeah,
Hawks.
something like that.
That's her name. Which I didn't get why they called her Sabbath, but
yeah, I don't know. She's
sure
a twisted up, messed up character as well.
Yeah, she's again the daughter of the blinded preacher.
Yeah,
she is told like just from the outstart like she is she's a bastard daughter, so her father tells her that she can't get into the kingdom of heaven. Yeah. So then she
basically uses that as like, well, I'm not getting in anyway.
So she tries to like hook up with Hazel throughout the entire movie,
and eventually succeeds. And then that's how eventually Enoch finds her at like the flat or the hotel where they're living, and then delivers the shrunken corpse, the new Jesus for the Church of Christ without Christ.
Yeah.
And that's when Hazel sees it, grabs hold of it, and smashes it. But the way that it's presented is that this is that Sabbath, Lily Sabbath.
Sabbath Lily Hawks, I think.
Sabbath Lily Hawks.
I think,
she's like, she knocks on the door and she's got this like, this
shawl.
She's got this shawl or something wrapped around her, and
she basically is made up to look like Mother Mary, like from an icon.
Yeah, exactly. Just only holding, only it's this like, the bastard daughter holding a shrunken corpse.
This is like, because that's really like the best you can do, like with material. Only, you know, is just a.
A
rotting corpse is like basically what you'd be worshiping if you're looking for like a Jesus without the supernatural.
Well, exactly.
You know?
Well, no, that's the thing. When Hazel mentions it, when what's dead stays dead, all these things. It's very material, but it's just funny that like Enoch is the fool that kind of just like shows him exactly, sort of he shows him a manifestation of that, and so, okay, something else like there's something about this too I want to say about Sabbath Lily Hawk's character, in that she's like going on and on about like she's rationalizing her kind of. Like clearly she has some kind of a moral intuition to be like rationalizing against. She's talking to a preacher. She does. she's so blinded by the lust after Hazel that she's like she accepts him in the form of a preacher, and then has to sit there and talk to him while she's trying to hook up with him about how like, well, she's a bastard anyway, so like none of this sin things matter. And Hazel can't see what she's doing. Like they're both in that car ride, they're both completely blinded by the sort of like the place that they stop, and like as far as they can see. And Hazel is sitting there just like, you know, he's like talking about like, well, there's not a bastard anyway, like none of that makes any sense. There is no bastard, but how could you be a bastard? Like he's confused. He's like he's trying to follow it with his like deranged sort of with his kind of blindness, and she is just like thinking that she's trying to like ensnare an actual preacher into fornication, and she's just trying to like rationalize, well, like I'm not getting into heaven anyway, so like is this really wrong? And it's just kind of like
it's born out of like this kind of ridiculous like rationalization of
Christianity.
You know,
yeah.
Well,
like
it's hard to
rationalization. Let's say propositional
What do you call
Christianity
it?
in this
Sure.
kind of way.
Yeah.
I would say if just like the
like
whole
bastards
way,
just don't get in. That's just a like that's a legalistic like rule.
right?
So it's like why not take it to this ridiculous extreme of like
yeah.
well, I'm damned anyways. Sin doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You know.
And it's like there's just one of the many sort of manifestations of what you get when you boil it down to this propositional thing.
Yeah.
Like what you get when you just like when you reduce it down to the point where it's like where Jesus Saves is pretty much on the same level as Coca-Cola. Like they both are just like these things swimming around in the New York Times nonstop bombardment of advertisements. It's just like it's one of many to kind of pick, and it's so brittle that it's set up to break.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like, and that's kind of like the, and Hazel's clearly broken in a way, but she's also just like she's broken in a way, and even the people that you find that are like sincere and in this movie and are actually like, the people who are the characters who are sincere are still like described, like they still end up like kind of manifesting parts of this problem of just being tied to a sinking ship, or pointing out the sort of glaring like the ridiculousness of the situation, or like how it's kind of spiraled out of control. The cab driver is a great example. Very, very early on in the film, Hazel gets back and he wants to go visit a prostitute, and the cab driver knows the address, so he knows that there's a prostitute at the end of the road he's going to drive to, and sees Hazel and mistakes him, like everybody does, as a preacher, and like says to him at one point, it's like you can't be going to her, she's a prostitute, and he's like, it's none of your business or whatever else, and he says like, well, you're a preacher. No, I'm not a preacher. And then he doesn't believe him. He says at one point, he says, that's the problem with you preachers, you're so holy, you're like above it all.
Look here, I know preacher.
Now, I understand it ain't anybody perfect on this green earth. Not preachers, not nobody. And you can tell folks better how terrible sin is if you know from your own experience.
Listen, get this. There ain't but one thing that I want you to understand, and that's that I don't believe in anything.
Nothing at all?
Nothing.
Well, that's the problem with you preachers. You've all got too damn good to believe in anything.
In this kind of way.
You're beyond believing in anything.
Yeah, and it's like, right, because it's all broken. It's all like it's just slogans. It's empty suits. It's like it's all those signs in the beginning that just like have so much meaning removed from them and are so removed from the form of what religion really is, that they're just they're just meaningless bumper stickers and billboards. Like, I don't know. We still see it if you drive up here on our highway.
Oh yeah,
41. There's the battle of the billboards, because there's like an adult entertainment store that's just like, come get your fix.
Yeah.
It's just like so clearly like it's just
and there's one immediately after it, like, Jesus doesn't like porn.
Yeah,
it's got like a big picture of like Jesus with his arms stretched out.
Yeah, or like
stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just like that's not where you're gonna find it. Man. So it's kind of right. It's that whole thing of the forms.
It's like the embodiment wasn't taken seriously. Now it's just lowered down to the
it's a
level of Coca-Cola. Exactly.
It's Coca-Cola Christianity. Man.
Sure.
Oh boy.
This is very cynical. I don't want to
be
make
too
it out
cynical.
like I think like all Protestants think this way.
No,
anything like that.
Not at all. I think that I think that there is something that is truly I don't want to be cynical.
Yeah, sure not.
Yeah. I'm not the one that
about the Protestant church, least of all things, right?
Well, I don't know. There's a sort of like there's a sort of way in which like this is all connected to a massive story. Like I think this is all like it's all part of the story. It's been said before that this is like the breaking of a church and the breakdown and the sort of the decline of Christianity. Like it's scandalous. from a church perspective, it's scandalous and it's all these things and it's not good. And you could be cynical about it, but also it's part of the ongoing story. And so, like in this way, it illumines something that you wouldn't have seen if it didn't happen. You know, because if you only really understand things in narrative form, from a certain kind of knowledge, then you don't really get to see how they play out unless they play out. So to speak. And we're just we're living that in a kind of way.
Yeah. I mean, it stems out of like the. It's hard to explain that, like purity culture or something like that. Like after a while, like we just stopped understanding why that was necessary.
Right.
And now it's like, you can, like I go to, non-denominational church like with my mom sometimes, and like she just says, or it doesn't matter like what you wear there.
Yeah.
It takes place in like a high school gym.
Yeah.
It's just like after a while then you just realize like, oh wait a minute, all this all this like huffy stuffy what do you call it? Like purity culture stuff like actually did kind of matter. Like
yeah.
And
well, I don't know if I want to say purity culture, but just like
I don't know what you call it exactly. But.
I would say a hierarchical understanding of things. In a certain way, and take that how you want. And clearly the probably I would say the author understood this, who eventually became Catholic, understood this as the Catholic order, or like a Catholic order. I don't know, the sort of way that the Catholic Church manifests itself as Pope, bishops, other clergymen and deacons and all these sort of things. Like they see it as this sort of kind of order where things have a place, and where during Mass you do some things, but you do not do other things. Certain things are up into the whole, in the Holy of Holies, and they're not. There's a way that the church is laid out. There's the narthex, the nave, and the sanctuary, or the altar and the pews, and then the lobby, or whatever else. But it's like this idea of these sort of like where things manifest and where church happens, and it certainly isn't some guy standing on his car preaching for the Church of Christ without Christ. It's clearly not down to the level of like the street preacher who's who's basically like a traveling salesman. So this would be a good time to bring up this sort of like
the Ned Beatty character.
Yeah, and the Ned Beatty character, who's wonderful. I like this sort of I don't know if you're a fan of Ned Beatty. This is a good little. He has a pretty great speech.
Yeah.
And
Hoover Schultz is the character's name.
Hoover Schultz. Yeah.
So while Hazel is preaching like on the top of his car, like what he said. Hoover Schultz shows up and he starts like, what? It's not even like he just doesn't even have like any clear idea of what Hazel's talking about.
Yeah.
So Hoover's just saying like, well, he talked to me one time and I was saved by his thing. He's just.
I wish I had my guitar. Somehow it's just easier for me to say something sweet with music rather than just plain. Listen to me, friends. Before I met this prophet here, I didn't have a friend in this world. Do any of you know what it means not to have a friend in the world?
There ain't no worse than nobody who wouldn't stick a knife in your back when you wasn't looking.
Oh, you said a mouthful when you said that, friend.
Yeah, just saying like whatever kind of salesman pitch he can to like get money out of the.
It's such
the
a great
people
salesman.
congregated
He
there.
doesn't hear anybody.
Yeah,
It's like
that's
there's
true.
so many scenes in this when it's just like you can clearly see the problem with this sort of every man his own truth seeker.
Yeah.
With like tied to nothing, because there's so many people that are just they're dogmatically following something, like as people end up kind of doing. But it's like it blinds them so much they can't see anything or hear anything. And Hoover Schultz just like sees an opportunity, and that's it. He's got it, and he's fixated, and he won't think of anything else but that. And he, that one guy says something to him, and he just like very quickly responds, "When you said that, you said a mouthful." And it's just like, it's like, you could say that to anything, like this sort of like these primed responses for like for someone who's not actually listening, Like you can tell when you catch your friend off guard and they weren't listening to you and they just throw you just kind of like a yeah,
Yeah,
so-"
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like I am prone to do sometimes.
Yeah.
When I'm lost
You
in
are.
thought, but for sure, I'll own that. But it's just like it's a response first that's just like auto generated in the moment, you know, or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. And I thought that whole like the rhythm of it and everything, and you can kind of see when he runs out of steam and then he has to like concoct a new sales pitch or something. And so needless to say, the founder of the Church of Christ Without Christ is just you know, he gets in his car, and Hazel gets in his car off the hood and starts to drive away, and Hoover Schultz is like, you know, wait a minute, friend, where you going? There's at least $10 out there, you know, and he's just I think it's at this point where he says something like the Church of Christ Without Christ was just a way of saying something. As in, it's like, it's nothing. I'm not selling anything. It's just a way of saying something, which is just another funny idea of like, it's like a total negation. And it's like, he has to have, everybody keeps telling him this too. Like, he has to have Christ in order for what he's doing to make sense at all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's
again, like the embodiment problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's total abstraction. And so like the Church of Christ Without Christ makes no sense unless you have a concept of Christ. But anyway, yeah, just really good. Hoover Schultz is a good character in this movie. There's a lot of funny kind of moments in this movie, even though it's like it gets like it goes into some pretty dark and decrepit and like seedy terrain.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, is like this entire movie and like the book as well is just like drenched in this kind of like southern trashiness.
Yeah.
That like Hazel is kind of trying to, I mean, it's like it's the world that like Hazel is like denying, but like, you know, he knows that it's there at the same time. He's not disillusioned of like anything, anything except for the car, which we never got to, by the way.
I was just gonna say, if we want to get back to
basically he's cynical about like everything in the world but a car that he bought, because I don't know, I guess it's like a road less traveled thing where like he buys this shabby old like piece of crap car. He thinks that it's perfect. Like he just believes it. Like he will tell like anybody who like says otherwise, or like there's a repair guy who has to come out and fix his car. I forget exactly what he says, but he's like, yeah, this car is perfect, right? Like he has to, you know, he begs for like validation.
Yes.
At that point from like the repair guy. The repair guy just won't respond.
Yeah. And he brings it up in theological discussion when someone starts talking about Christ or something, or I think at one point someone was talking the religious talk. It was the blind preacher, and he says something like, you know, just like all you need is a good car. Like it's just like it's the thing that he grasps onto is his material possession. Like what actually gets him places is just like on a material plane, and it's his car.
Where you going? To another city. In this car?
Look, nobody with a good car needs to worry about nothing. You understand?
Yep. You got 2 leaks in the radiator. This is tire let him last maybe 20 miles. You go slow.
This car is just beginning its life. A lightning bolt couldn't stop it.
I know you just putting water in it, won't hold it.
We'll put it in there just the same.
So back to Enoch then at this point in the story. He's kind of, this is the part where he's like less holy fool, and he just becomes like, I guess a total fool is like the point of this, the gorilla suit.
Yeah.
So like he sees a person in a gorilla suit who's like traveling around with like a group of I don't know, circus people or something.
Yeah,
like they're just basically like selling handshakes with like the human gorilla to like little kids.
What was his name? Do you remember the name?
What? I forget. It's like
I forgot it. Yeah,
Mongo or something.
I think it's Mongo.
It's something like that. Yeah, like shakes hands with Mongo for 15 cents, and so then Enoch gets like he goes up to this gorilla suit person like multiple times until they like get very
every
like,
way,
perturbed
every
at him.
place that they go. Yeah.
Yeah. So then Enoch decides to like steal the gorilla suit, which I guess is, I don't know, it like what do you think that like symbolizes?
I don't
really?
know.
I guess it's just like his animal, like his intuition is just leading him into becoming like a lower being.
He was talking
Something
about
like
the
that.
wise blood, and this is kind of in part why I think that like the wise blood is just kind of passions, and the way that passions will pull you in some kind of place. Like not every inspiration is divine inspiration. Some inspirations are animalistic.
Yeah.
You know, like lust is a perfect one. You know, that it's just like that's. It's pretty clear when you feel some inspirations where they're leading to, and so he ends up. I guess
it like brings him back in the evolutionary chain.
Yeah, that's
like that.
That's good. That's a good way to
I don't
put
know.
it. I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's like he gets a gorilla suit and he I don't know, scares an old couple who tries to shake their hands.
Yeah.
Or something, and then he's like not satisfied with it anymore. So I guess enough about that. Now we can get back to the car, the real important part.
The heart of the.
Yeah, it is. It's like the heart of the story, basically.
It's at least the heart of Hazel's understanding of what like the positive things that he actually does have, because there's not much he owns apart from his clothing. And the vehicle. Actually, I think that's all he owns, and like I don't know what he does for work. But aside from preaching on the corner, so he just kind of he lives in this place. He doesn't own the place. He owns a car and he owns the clothes on his back, and there's something in it about just like the two things that he has are that he actually owns are the material possession of the car and then also the clothes, which make him look like a preacher. Like so he like in some ways he owns this.
Yeah,
you know, like it's a part of him.
Did we talk about like his guilt complex?
No, we did not. We did not.
So we should talk about the flashbacks first to like his he has flashbacks to his grandfather, who, like we said at the beginning, is like a fire and brimstone preacher. When he's a kid, he sneaks into a carnival.
He sneaks into some kind of like a it's so weird. It's just like there's like a coffin or reliquary thing just like sitting there with a glass
forget what do you call it, like a vanity show or something like that.
Yeah, like a peep show.
Yeah,
it's a peep show.
Basically, there's like a half naked lady like in a glass box that he views.
He climbs a tent pole to see into this glass box, and you know, and then there's the flashbacks of him just like sitting, just like quivering on a chair, urinating himself as his grandfather is talking about, you know, this boy's soul will eventually be.
That's not. He was talking about Jesus, like how Jesus would die 10 million times for anybody in this room, even this little boy over here, and then he's pointing at Hazel.
Yeah.
Hazel urinates himself. He puts like rocks in his shoes from his guilt, like just to. As some kind of like masochistic way of
that's
atoning. So he has this guilt complex, which is he's kind of trying to like get over like throughout the entire movie. But you can always kind of see like in the tension and
that's what makes him
like the actor's face and everything. Like he's not comfortable like with the way he's living at all, but like. Again, like the one thing he's still like completely delusioned about is the car.
Yeah,
which we'll get to now. So the car arc, I guess, like kind of culminates in a police officer or like a county sheriff or something like pulling him over like in the middle of nowhere, just saying that he pulled him over because he doesn't like his face. Like it's I don't know. You can read into that how you want, I guess, but like he just pulls him over for like no reason, takes his car, Hazel's car, and like,
just, like
pushes it into a river. Basically, So then like Hazel at this point, he's disillusioned of like the car, of everything. Like the car was basically like his. Like the one thread he had to like his ideology that like nothing needs redemption.
And this is also the last scene that you see him clearly in the preacher garb.
Yeah.
Everything from this point on, it's that identity.
So, yeah.
Is the car is gone, and the preacher, like, it's actually
Preacher's gone.
preacher's gone, the
his
car's
world is like kind of just like ripped out from under his feet.
Yeah, he's as much into the earlier he's just talking about nihilism, and now he has nothing, and so like he kind of starts to he gives up on the he gives up on the trying to describe what nihilism is and just starts to live it.
Yeah.
You could say. Which really is, it's like, it's misery.
Yeah, he has no like illusions about like the brokenness of the world like after this part.
Yeah. And that's the next scene is when he grabs the quick lie and the bucket of water and goes and did you want to say something about this?
Yeah, no, that's what happens right after. He's just like at this
himself.
point
he
just commits to like self-destruction.
Exactly.
Basically because he says like he needs to atone. Although, what he's atoning
for, it's like there's no clear thing.
Well,
it's
he
just,
kills a guy and like
we
didn't talk about that. He kills a drunk guy like towards the end.
Right. Okay, let's do a quick little wrap around to there. Ned Beatty's character says that he's gonna, the guy who was only seeing business wanted to make a quick buck. Mr. Schultz comes back the next night. Comes back and has a rival preacher on the preacher's corner. Back when he's still doing the preaching gig before his car gets pushed down into the water. And another thing, there's another great symbol. There's like the water, like Harry's star. The car goes into the abyss. It's just like all that he is gone into the abyss.
Yeah.
So here's a through line with this kind of individual character and where they end up. But anyhow, the point being, this guy, Beatty's character gets a rival preacher. Hazel doesn't like that. Hazel ends up basically following him and just and murdering
running him over with his car.
Yeah, running him over with his car.
With the car.
Exactly. Taking the
There you go.
There's something about that sort of like the vehicle for nihilism destroying the easily broken churches.
Sure.
You could say. Yeah, that's a good way to read into it.
Possibly. Yeah. But yeah, at this point, like Hazel, after his car is destroyed, he realizes like there needs to be redemption.
Yeah, he has nothing.
But now he doesn't have any. Like
Exactly.
he doesn't have a redeemer anymore. He already rejected that, so now he's just committed to like destruction.
Yeah,
this is like the nihilism book. With Seraphim Rose.
Father Seraphim Rose. Yes.
Go off on that whole direction, but yeah, it's like the progression of nihilism into self-destruction. That's where it leads.
Yes.
According to Flannery O'Connor and probably me and you and everybody,
and certainly Father Seraphim Rose.
Yeah.
And then it's so funny too how. So he goes back to the hotel, dumps quick lie in his eyes, and that's the last you ever see of his then kind of
preacher garb.
Of the girl. What's her name?
Oh yeah, she takes off. Lily Hawks takes off.
And then he's
like,
alone. Yeah. He's just isolated, and he's just got the landlady.
Yeah.
Who's like the only person in the world that cares about him at all anymore, and God knows why. But like, there's a symbol in there too, that like holding on to something, that just because it's there, and because there's like a fragment of the thing that's still there, and it's like a little something is a lot better than nothing. Only in this case, it's just like the broken something that she's holding on to.
Yeah.
And she sees him do all this kind of this sort of stuff that's like this crazy. She's seen him blind himself. She finds rocks in his shoes, and she sees him wrapping barbed wire around his chest like another movie we've seen fairly recently. The First Reformed guy. Yeah. And just like, and she's going crazy watching this. Like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
With this thing that I've accepted into my house. Like, it totally surprises her that this is what's going on. And she's like describing. I thought it was funny. She's like, people don't do this anymore. People don't. There aren't these people anymore. And he's saying, well, I'm doing it, so it's still around. And it's just kind of funny. And she says at one point, like, you're like, people aren't saints anymore. And she says, you're like some monk. You ought to be in a monkery.
What do you do these things for?
Pay.
Pay? Pay for what? Mr. Mose, what do you walk on rocks for?
It don't make any difference what for.
It's not natural.
It's natural.
Well, it's not normal. It's like one of them gory stories that some people have quit doing. Like boiling in oil or being a saint or walling up cats. There's no reason to it. People have quit doing it.
They ain't quit doing it as long as I'm doing it.
People have quit doing it. What do you do it for?
I ain't clean.
I know it. You got blood on that shirt and in the bed.
That ain't the kind of clean.
There's only one kind of clean, Mr. Modes.
Yeah. And it's just really funny, this kind of like, she has no basis for understanding the sort of like, you know, there is that thing about the baseline of life in some way that like you can confront nothing with truly nothing and it becomes self-destructive, or you can try to lower yourself and humble yourself and really accept humility in a certain kind of way, like a monk or like the saints had, or you know, the saints do, or an ascetic. That's like, and she confuses the two. You know, she sees this self-destruction as like that's what monks are doing. You know what I mean? Or that's what saints are doing, and it's just like this total confusion. Because why not? She doesn't have any tradition to understand that kind of thing. All she has is this broken tradition, and you know, and that's kind of like it's one of those things. It's like she's trying to hold on to this thing that it's just like it's burning out, and it's gone, and there's no reviving it, and it doesn't even want to be revived, you know. But anyway, that's yeah. I don't know, this sort of thing that it's like you can't run away from this kind of thing happening. We spoke just before starting this recording. We spoke briefly on, and it's not my idea. I heard this somewhere recently, but it's really pertinent to this kind of movie. That like the Puritans, even they tried to run away from all this stuff. They really tried to they tried to have their pure Christian world. And what happened? Like out in America, they met like Europeans, they started doing you know, they had the witch trials. Why? Because pagan ritual started to spring up again. Because ritual happens, and because these sort of things like there's no way to get a kind of absolutist seal on something. Or to just like I don't know, put yourself in like a place where you you can escape like ritualized things. You can't escape this, and it's funny, in the self-destruction is where you see it in Hazel coming back, and this sort of like he's atoning to something. He's doing ritual masochistic punishment upon himself for what? Like there's something driving it. And like it makes a lot of sense, but
this is where like I wanted to bring up the what do you call it, like complete permissiveness and tyranny.
Oh sure,
because it's like the progression of this movie. It's like the flip that happens when the car is destroyed, when you can't BS your way through reality anymore. It just it has to flip, and like then there's no redemption, there's no saving anything. There's only really like the path of self-destruction. Like eventually, like we watched this movie right after the Chauvin trial, right?
Oh, right.
Like the Derek Chauvin trial, which is like the biggest like gimme to progressive America. Like, you know, this is like the perfect like, oh, justice has been served. They convicted him guilty of like every charge. Mm-hmm. He got like, well, we're assuming like he'll get like the maximum sentencing and everything, right? I don't know if that's happening.
Well,
yet.
I don't know if anybody's really following.
But
anymore.
It's like the full extent of the law.
It was a total victory.
You know, justice has been meted out, or so you'd think, right? But like and like right after this happened, I saw like an interview with or just a sound clip really from like AOC, who's like, she's not satisfied. You know,
Yeah.
like this is not enough. We need to do like I don't know what the hell else he do. Like at this point, like he's going to jail forever.
Yeah.
Supposedly, but like it's just it'll never be good enough because the world's still like this broken mess.
Right. Yeah, right. And it's like there's definitely oh yeah. Okay. And then this is clearly there's a as it's been said, and this is kind of a hokey thing way to say it, but I think it's a true way to say it is like there's a God-shaped hole in the heart that can't be filled by anything
I
but
guess.
like
well, not even like a God shape. It's like there's like a Jesus shaped hole. It's just like you need that redemption, and like you
right.
just
like it's
you
like
don't get
this,
it anywhere in like modernism, really.
you don't, and it's like this sort of thing. It's like these mechanical causal fixes. Just always have to bring in Nicholas Hassim Taleb, and he always talking about like how the academics and the people that isolate themselves in the scientific world will look at something causally, but they won't see that like what happens when they implement it. Like they can, even as far ahead as you look down the chain, if you create and you think about everything, as far as you can look, and you make this causal mechanism and you put it into the world, it will have a cause. Like it's going to do something, and they just don't see that there's like they don't see the repercussions of their actions. And it's just like, it's that burning out, self-destructive kind of thing that just it leads. Where does it lead to? It's just it's never satiated.
Yeah, it's like everything like comes to ruin. You know,
Right.
You're not gonna have perfect space communism like in the future. It's just like all these like ideologies that came out of like the Enlightenment now. And,
so I would say this, like one way to say that is like there's a God-shaped hole. I think one way to maybe bring it down to a more digestible, non-platitude way of saying this, because
we did it.
Yeah.
There's a God-shaped hole in your heart.
We did it. Yeah.
These be filled.
I know. Yeah. See, I said it was hokey, but it's like it is kind of a.
There's a mess outside there, and it needs a quicker picker-upper.
Right. Oh man. Oh, please forgive me. But no, there's what I would say is it's like this. There's a couple ways of confronting the abyss, and there's one is trying to manage it, which ends up being self-destructive.
Yeah.
Then there's the other way, which is trying to humble yourself and to accept as much humility as possible, as to kind of like you can see where those two would lead, where a sort of like accepting a humility upon yourself. Like this is one thing that I forget the saint that said it was like to be close to God, you need to make yourself the size of an ant. And it's really like this way in like the religious tradition where you have like all different religious traditions, people are trying to be like their gods, and the Christian is trying to emulate the sort of this kind of perfect love, and that's the thing that holds the world together. And it's like if you try to get on top of it and you try to make some kind of causal mechanism to contain and to control and to eradicate all the Greek letter variants of COVID, you're going to end up with some kind of causal mechanism that's going to cause something else to go wrong. Like it's going to it's just going to keep spiraling out of control. But if you actually accept some humility and accept that it's like, you really accept your place, then you can see like how things fall together in a kind of way. You can see patterns in this way if you make yourself small enough that you're not a controller of the patterns. I think maybe that's the best way to put it. So it's not I'm trying to redeem myself for the platitude, but I think that's it's as good as I can explain it now with the sort of my limited understanding of it now. So,
all right,
man, I think that's Wise Blood then, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Awesome.
Encompassed every single thing the movie was trying to say, and
there's a lot in there.
No, yeah, there's a lot we skipped over.
The more we we were talking about it, the more it's like, oh man, and you could and this is the trouble with like it is like looking at a Hieronymus Bosch painting.
Yeah, it is kind of just like a whirlwind of like messed up.
Which one do you want to pick and talk about and like get into?
Like a giant mess of like failed like ideas and
just
prostitutes and rundown shacks and.
But they
like,
all
this stuff.
share one thing in common.
Yeah.
They're Protestant in origin.
Oh yeah, so
No,
absolutely.
no, not exactly. They're modernist in origin, and it's the breakdown. It's the breakdown, and I think that shouldn't be confused with nowadays, especially. I see, we got things like the Bible Project. There's all these various things that are coming from the all these different spheres of Christianity. Vanderklay, all these people that are looking at things and seeing like there's a real kind of a love of looking at how patterns fall together, and so like I don't want to demonize Protestants or anything like that. You know what I mean? Man.
Yeah, sure you don't.
No, I don't. I don't. I'll poke fun at Protestants every once in a while. And you obviously have no problem with it. You hadn't in this podcast anyway.
No, I guess not.
So yeah.
Yeah, all right. What do you want, Andrew Zero? Yes,
oh man.
No, yeah.
If that's how you're gonna frame it.
Well, it does. I don't know. Sometimes the way you talk about it does feel like a knife fight.
Yeah. Oh man. Is this how we're ending the podcast?
No. Might cut some of this. I don't know.
All right.
But all right. Yeah. No, it was good. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts? Yeah, I would suggest the movie. I thought, like, overall, I'll be honest, I liked it, but I didn't really. It wasn't an enjoyable movie for me. Like, it was fun. There was some like good stuff in it, and it's definitely got a lot to work with. But like, if you don't like hokey synth generated soundtracks, this one's not.
Oh, it wasn't synth.
Oh, wasn't it?
I think it was like just like a country band or something.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe I don't know. But like, either way, the aesthetic of the movie is kind of. It can be a little overbearing at parts. I felt.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
That's the same way in the book.
Yeah, which it's like, oh man, maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, it's just like kind of disgusting.
I just don't want to look at this stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's true, but it's really not that. It's definitely worth watching. I'd say.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, I think
reading.
We have talked. I'm gonna set up for the next episode. We have talked a great deal about the multiplicity, the multitudes, the unwashed masses, and the multitudes in the breakdown. And I really think the next episode should be on following the life of an individual who is not of the multitude.
Yeah. I know
Tune
where
in
this
next
is
time.
going.
Tune in next time for Andrei Rublev.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a great monologue. All right.
You've seen it twice now, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, take care, folks. Thanks for listening.
Yep. Goodbye.